Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the guy who is looking off at an awkward angle so you do not see the mark on his nose. I'm here to talk about Damir Ismagulov versus Grant Dawson. Damir Ismagulov is 32 years old, 24-2, and he's got 0 inches of height, but he's got 2 inches of reach over Grant Dawson, who's 29 years old and has a record of 19-1-1. This is a co-main event because these guys are so talented. That's what makes this such a high-stakes fight. You know, you could argue neither one of these guys is really, well, I guess Grant Dawson is much more of a finisher than Damir Ismagulov, but Damir Ismagulov is a pure decision fighter in victory or defeat in the UFC, and he's only in a co-main event slot here because he's earned it by winning so many of those decisions, but also he is just that talented, where I think the UFC knows the winner of this fight could very well fight for a title one day. And the loser might as well. Who the fuck knows? But here we go. Damir Ismagulov, 24-2. He's got 12 knockouts in his 24 wins, just 1 submission and 11 decisions. His 2 losses both come by decision. And in both fights, he was out-grappled. Taken down, out-wrestled, and out-grappled. Arman Tsarukyan, we saw that fight last year, or this year, I think, I don't know. And Arman dominated him. And it actually forced Damir to retire. But I guess he had time to think things over, and here he is. And the other loss comes to this really good fighter, Ramazan Esenbayev, who beat him by decision earlier on. I didn't see the whole fight, but I've seen highlights of it, and I know he was out-grappled. His wins, though, you know, in the UFC anyway, they're all by decision. He's beaten some good guys. That Guram Kutateladze win, that's a win that I think will get better with age, unless he loses to Elvish Brenner on this card. But, yeah, that just goes to show you what a victory can do. Those guys had really a razor-thin fight. Could have gone either way. One guy's in the co-main event. The other guy's on the first fight of the night. In the first fight of the night, I think. Either way. Damir, he's really sound. He was tapped as an amateur. I should mention that, just so you know that I know it. But I don't really put much stock into that, even though it was by a rear naked choke. And if Grant Dawson's going to get a finish, it's probably by rear naked choke. But that's beside the point. As a pro, he's looked really, really tough to finish. Arman Tsarukyan, not that he's the most potent finisher on the ground himself, but he's obviously a very skilled guy everywhere. And he resorted to really neutralizing Damir, you know, and controlling him, which I think Grant Dawson can definitely do. Grant Dawson is a very good grappler, really skilled back taker, and he's really heavy on top. Just, he's one of the best grapplers in the division, Grant Dawson. Guy's just a fucking monster. And Grant Dawson, his 1 loss comes by knockout, for whatever that's worth. This guy, Hugh Pulley, knocked him out with Travis Brown elbows, which are those. You know, as you might imagine, Grant Dawson was shooting in on a takedown, had him against the cage, and he landed those and knocked him out. But that's his only loss. The only other fight in which he's come close to losing was the fight against Ricky Glenn. That was a fight where Grant Dawson was winning, dominating even, or, you know, winning anyway, but then he started being dominated in round 3. Came really close to getting finished. TKO'd, choked out. Ricky Glenn was all over him. And credit to Grant Dawson. He survived. Kept it from being a 10-7 round, if we have to consider that. But it was a 10-8 round, and the fight went to a draw. And he was lucky, in my opinion, to walk away with a draw, because Ricky Glenn was really, really pouring it on. But typically, it's Grant Dawson who thrives in the 3rd round, especially if he's controlling you from early on. He's gotten plenty of finishes in round 3. Leonardo Santos, in the final 2nd of the fight, knocked him out with a hammer fist. He choked out Jared Gordon and, of course, Marco Madsen, Olympic wrestler. And that was really impressive, that victory, because he out-wrestled Marco Madsen. At first, in the 1st round, he didn't really. He got taken down and then kind of just took his back. Really, you know, made it a jiu-jitsu battle. But after that, he was winning the wrestling battle. He was the one taking him down. And that made, you know, the fight that much more easy for him. And he ended up getting the finish, of course. But Grant Dawson is a suffocating top-game fighter. I always thought he was good, but watching him come into the UFC and strangle Trezano was really impressive. And then taking out Darrick Minner is not as impressive, especially in a legitimate fight. But Grant Dawson is still, the ceiling's very high for him. I just think here, if Grant is able to take Damir down, he's going to control him. And I can't say he's going to win the fight, but I think he's going to win the round. He's got to be able to take him down 3 times to win the fight, in my opinion. Damir Ismagulov, if he's able to keep this standing, he absolutely wins on the feet. Again, Damir is much better. I don't know if he's going to get a finish, even though he's got half of his wins by finish. None of them in the UFC. At the UFC, he's pretty much been a point fighter, and there's no shame in that. He's fighting a lot, you know, obviously better competition and some dangerous guys as well. Grant Dawson doesn't bring the danger of like Rafael Alves, who gave Damir hell for a round. But Grant Dawson's a guy that has that grappling prowess where you don't want to give him that takedown and you don't want to give him your back. He's a guy that, again, if he doesn't get the finish, he's definitely going to win the round. You're not getting out from underneath him. And Damir's really got to mind his P's and Q's here. My pick for this fight, I'm picking Grant Dawson. I'm picking Grant Dawson. I don't think it's going to be the prettiest win. I don't think it's going to look like Arman Tsarukyan. I think it'll be tougher. But I think the fact that Damir isn't such a good finisher will allow Grant to, you know, make more mistakes without having to pay for them immediately. I do think Grant Dawson wins the takedown battle, although Damir is no slouch at all in wrestling. But still, Grant Dawson's really crafty. Again, just beat an Olympic wrestler, even though the guy's 50 years old. But he's a really skilled grappler, really good takedown artist. I'm backing Grant Dawson. I think Grant Dawson wins this fight by decision. I'm always going to play round 3 finish with him after he won his last 3 finishes in round 3. I will absolutely play that, but really I'm just going to stay away from the money line bets on this one. If some of the props interest me, Grant by decision, or even Damir by decision. If it was twice as much as Grant, I would play that, because I do think this one goes the distance. Those goes the distance plays, they never really entice me too much. I know it's all worked out mathematically, where if you really think it goes the distance, you may as well bet on that. But again, this is a fight between a striker and a grappler. Grant is not comfortable on the feet. And even though Damir is comfortable on the ground, Grant is much more of a potent finisher on the ground than Damir is on the feet. So I think I'm just going to stay away from this one in general. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit. Check out my other videos.